CANOPY-A is part of a suite of trials investigating a really interesting, exciting drug called Canakinumab. That's a mouthful for sure. So this is a drug that targets something called interleukin-beta. And think of this drug as working in this way. It helps control inflammation and probably chronic inflammation. Now, the reason this is even a study, this CANOPY study, CANOPY-A specifically, but the CANOPY studies period, is because of a trial that already took place in a non-cancer setting. So Canakinumab was being investigated in another trial for patients with cardiovascular disease to see if preventing inflammation could reduce the cardiovascular events in patients at risk for those events, so patients who've already had cardiovascular events. A large trial, a randomized placebo-controlled design, and that was called the CANTOS study, C-A-N-T-O-S, and it's already been published in the New England Journal, and it was a major finding in terms of its ability to reduce cardiovascular events. But how does this tie to what we're doing in CANOPY? Well, what came out of that CANTOS study for cardiovascular disease was an unexpected finding that patients had less lung cancer develop, and that if they developed lung cancer, there was fewer people who died from lung cancer. So this was quite an unexpected finding, but also one hard to ignore because of the compelling statistics from that trial. And so what happened was a decision was made to take that signal and follow it in these CANOPY trials. And so CANOPY-A it's actually a trials in progress presentation at ASCO, something that's happened at some other meetings, but this is an interesting study in the early stage setting. So taking patients with early stage lung cancer, treating them with surgery, allowing them to get cisplatin-based doublet chemotherapy, so the standard things you do for early stage lung cancer, and randomizing them to Canakinumab or not. And so this is an ambitious trial trying to show that if you can influence or inhibit inflammation, perhaps that would also lead to less patients developing progressive or recurrent disease that is left after surgery. And we know even for our stage 1 patients, but especially for our 3A patients, there can be a high risk of recurrent disease. I mean, obviously that risk is higher in our stage 3 patients than stage 1B patients. And that those patients are going to need additional interventions to improve their outcomes. And so that's what this trial is about. Trial's ongoing. It's an important study. It's one of a handful, I think 4 total Canakinumab lung cancer studies in progress. And I think one is already read out in the advanced setting. But our center and myself, I'm involved in the early adjuvant trial.